Alright, so these are my week 6 UFL power rankings. Let's get started. Starting off with our top performances. I'm not going to go over everything. I'll go over mainly the quarterbacks here. Dresser Wynn was pretty solid in his first game here with Memphis. Case Cookis was okay. Not a good completion percentage, but did have a really good rushing stats with 83 yards. Bryce Perkins was amazing as always. Max Dugan was a lot better this week. No turnovers, had 3 total touchdowns. He was much improved from a week ago. Jordan Tiami was really good with 4 total touchdowns. Completion percentage still really bad, but really good yardage and touchdowns. Louis Perez was, typical Louis Perez. He was good, and he did have 1 interception this week, but he had nearly 270 yards, which I think more than makes up for that 1 interception. Jalen McClendon was really good for Houston, pretty solid numbers there. And Jarrett Guarantano for San Antonio, he was pretty bad, but so was Kellen Mond as well. Now getting started off at number 8. Kind of already saw this, but this is going to be the San Antonio Brahmas. I'll get in here in the frame. But the San Antonio Brahmas were really bad this week. They lost 27-3 versus the Houston Roughnecks. They had 118 yards of offense. That is atrocious. They had 2 turnovers to 1 takeaway. Again, not very good there. Kellen Mond was bad. 35 total yards and an interception. Not good at all. Jared Guarantano, not much better. 6 for 15 for 29 yards and an interception as well. Both quarterbacks were atrocious in this game. Their offense as a whole was atrocious in this game. And their defense wasn't very good either. Letting the Houston Roughnecks put up 27 points on you is not a good sign. Moving on to number 7, it's going to be the Memphis Showboats. They do move up at 1 spot. They had a really good game this week. 24-20 win versus the Birmingham Stallions. They had outgained them by 50 total yards. They had 0 turnovers and 1 takeaway. They were pretty good across all categories in this game. Defense was fine, right? Offense, again, 323 yards is really good, and they got their first win of the week, or of the season, in this game against Birmingham. Dresser Wynn looked like a really good quarterback, especially compared to E.J. Perry and Troy Williams. With him as the starting quarterback going forward, as well as getting David Davis back from injury, they also signed Wes Hills to be their running back. So with those additions, this offense could be really, really scary down the back half of this season. And honestly, Memphis could be a dark horse team to make a late season run for playoff contention. Next up is going to be Houston Roughnecks at number 6. We got back-to-back wins here with a 27-3 win against the San Antonio Brahmas. Like I already mentioned, the Brahmas had 118 yards of offense, so props to the Roughnecks defense for holding them to that low of yardage. They also had 2 takeaways in this game. Really, really good defensive performance from Houston, and offense was really solid there as well. Again, Jalen McClendon was solid here in this game. So Quante Wright was really good. Justin Hall was really good as well. So a lot of good pieces going for Houston offensively. Number 5 is going to be the Birmingham Stallions. They're 3-2, dropping 2 spots here from number 3. They gave the Memphis Showboats their first win of the season. It was with the new quarterback, who again was much improved over the previous quarterbacks they had. But still, losing to a winless team is not a good look. And Case Cookis did not look great as a starter. He looked fine, but certainly did look like a big step down from even what Matt Corral was producing for Birmingham. Otherwise, offensively for Birmingham, they were solid. Ricky Person, Deion Kane had really good contributions, but again, defensively, not the best performance here from Birmingham. Moving on to number 4 is going to be the Arlington Renegades, staying at the 4th spot. They had a 4-point loss to the DC Defenders, 37-33. Offensively, they were great, almost 360 yards, but they let up nearly 400 yards on defense. They also had 2 offensive turnovers and 2 takeaways. So again, the 2 takeaways is good, but those 2 offensive turnovers is not a good look for Arlington. They did put up the points, obviously, so we're not really too concerned, but they got to get those turnover numbers down, because if they would have had 1 or even 0 turnovers in this game, they likely win. So get the turnovers number down, but I'm still not too concerned about Arlington, although their defense, again, was not good this week. Number 3 is going to be the St. Louis Battlehawks, jumping up from number 6. So after their week 4 game, I thought they were going to be dead in the water because Max Dugan looked horrible in Week 4. Max Duggan comes out of the gate in Week 5 looking really, really strong. Their defense looked really good here as well with a 32-27 win over the Panthers. Again, they did let up 400 yards of defense, but they had a takeaway, right? The rush defense was solid. Their pass defense, again, Bryce Perkins is Bryce Perkins, so he's going to do what he does. But offensively for St. Louis, they were great. Hakeem Butler was amazing. He had, I believe, only had 2 catches this week, if I'm not mistaken. But he had 2 catches for 124 yards and 2 touchdowns, all in the fourth quarter. Right, so those are obviously big statistics late in the game. Hakeem Butler also came back from injury in this week. So with Hakeem Butler coming back, right, that made a big difference. Max Duggan looked a lot better, so I do feel a lot more confident in the St. Louis Battlehawks going forward after Week 5 as compared to where I was feeling after Week 4. Moving on to number 2, it's going to be the Michigan Panthers. They were at number 1 on my ranking a week ago. They're going to drop to number 2. I know the Battlehawks just beat them, so you could definitely change those 2 spots. But the one thing that keeps Michigan above them, in my opinion, is because they have officially said that Bryce Perkins is the QB1 going forward without having any Danny Etling packages in the game. Danny Etling has gotten like a couple drives here and there in every single game so far, pretty much. And he's been a significant step down from Bryce Perkins. He hasn't necessarily been bad, but he definitely has not been good. And Bryce Perkins has been the best quarterback in the UFL this season. So just getting him for those extra, drive or 2 a game is going to be big for Michigan going forward. Again, otherwise in this game, they still had 400 yards of offense. So their offense was great. Defense was not good in this game, letting up, 32 points is never a good sign, but still not too worried about Michigan going forward. With Bryce Perkins, getting all the quarterback reps, I feel really good about Michigan still in the future. And the number 1, of course, is going to be DC right now. They had a great win, 37-33 versus the Renegades. Again, defense wasn't great. Letting up 33 points is not good. They still had 2 takeaways, though, which is good there. And then offensively, obviously, they were amazing. Jordan Teamu, again, a bad completion percentage, but he had over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, with a rushing touchdown as well. Did have 1 interception, but when you have 4 touchdowns, 1 interception doesn't really look like much. Also had a lot of receivers do really good. Cornell Powell looked great. Braylon Sanders looked great. Chris Rowland looked great. Really, really good all-around supporting cast here for DC. Next up, we're going to get into our standings here. So, you got a really close race here. At least for the top 3 spots in each conference. DC at 4-1. Then you got Arlington and St. Louis both at 3-2. That's going to be a big game in Week 6 this week between those 2 teams. Arlington did win the first matchup just a week ago. Number 4 is San Antonio Brahmas at 1-4. They're going to need some really big stuff going for them in the next couple of weeks to be able to even stay alive in this race. In the USFL, it's a lot closer. We got Birmingham and Michigan at 3-2, but then Houston's only 1 game behind both those teams, and then the Showboats, only 2 games behind, and they're looking really good, with Dresser Wynn. And they got some big additions coming to their team for the back half of the season. I do think they could again make a late season push here for the playoffs. Now we're going to get into our quarterback power rankings. So it's actually going to be this one. Sorry. It's going to be this ranking right here. The other one, this was last week's ranking. This is this week's ranking. But we have a couple additions to this team, to this list. Dresser Wynn did not play before this week. And he comes in at number 5. And then Jared Guarantano did not play before this week. And he comes in at 18. He was pretty bad. But number 1 is going to be Bryce Perkins. 2 is Teamu. 3 is Luis Perez. So Perkins stays at 1. Teamu and Perez flip-flop. 4 is still Manny Wilkins. He didn't play this week. But Dresser Wynn does slide in at number 5. He was great this week. Right. He did have like an 80-yard touchdown pass on the first drive of the game, which accounted for like a third of his total production. So obviously that definitely helped him. But he was still pretty good throughout the rest of this game as well. Number 6, Jalen McClendon. 7, Henderson. 8, Corral. And 9, Troy Williams. So with these guys, Jalen McClendon actually does jump above Nolan Henderson. But then you see guys like Matt Corral and Troy Williams just drop down below Dresser Wynn. And then Kellen Mond at number 10, again, he also just dropped below Dresser Wynn. Then you got guys like Max Dugan at number 11, who played great this week, but he was really, really bad before this week, so he still is only at number 11. 12's Case Cookus, he drops below, a couple of guys, he drops below, Max Dugan and Dresser Win, but he actually jumps ahead of EJ Perry, who falls 3 spots below those 3 guys I just mentioned. And then pretty much everybody else down here is going to be dropping below those additions of Dresser Win, and then Max Dugan jumping up a couple of spots. That's going to be it for that. Now we get into our attendance. So we got some good attendance numbers this week. Memphis and Birmingham had about 9,000, whereas Birmingham's previous season average was 10,000. So only 1,000 below, and that also, I believe, was Birmingham's home opener. So not too bad of a number here for Birmingham. Michigan and St. Louis had 30,000, so actually 300 up above their season average. That's pretty good. DC and Arlington at 9,500. 200 less than their season average, but that's still a pretty solid number. And then Houston and San Antonio had 14,000. This was San Antonio's home opener. So their last year's home opener was only 13,000 though. So a big increase over that as well. So actually our average here exceeded the average expectations that we would have had coming into this week. Then moving on to our TV viewership. We got some questionable numbers here, but honestly not too bad if you look at it in the grand scheme of things. Memphis and Birmingham only 467,000 on Fox, 200,000 less than the season average, but they were also competing with day 2 of the NFL draft, who had 7 million viewers. So if those 7 million viewers weren't watching the draft, you could guess at least 200,000 of them would be watching this game. Then we got the Panthers and Battlehawks on ESPN at 615,000, which, again, the ESPN numbers are not great this season. The season average is 468,000. So this St. Louis game is actually good comparatively. DC and Arlington at 545K is good comparatively. And then the Roughnecks and Browns game at 391K is pretty bad comparatively. But overall, it's not too bad. 504,000 is our average this week, and the average, comparatively here would be 520,000. So we're still not too far off. We did see actually our ESPN average increase from this week, which is good. It's just our Friday night game was pretty bad. But that's going to be it for this video. Thank you for watching. Make sure to check back next week for an updated power rankings list, and goodbye.